Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ironis Insights. I have Lyon Kassab. He is the founder and managing director of BoCG. Thank you very much for joining us in this beautiful backdrop you have behind you.
Thanks, Alex. It's a pleasure to be with you.
And where are you calling from? I could take one guess, but
I'm in Los Angeles, specifically Palos Verdes, California.
beautiful, man. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to getting into your background and what got you into the successful position that you're in today. So, if you don't mind, would you mind diving into how you got to where you are today?
Sounds good. Well, I grew up in Finland, so that's where my accent comes from. But my dad's Italian Lebanese, and my mother's Swedish speaking Finn. And so I'm a little bit of a mutt. I speak seven languages, so bear with me on the accent. I moved to LA in '96 after spending a year and a half in the Finnish military. Went to Pepperdine uh, University in Malibu. It was nice and sunny. I was no longer freezing. And after 4 years, I went to work for a company called Toyota. You might have heard of it,
Yep.
and did accounting for them. Not really exciting stuff. And then I decided to go to another company called Herbalife.
Hmm.
Herbalife was a $1 billion company at the time. They had a new management team coming in, and I was lucky enough to ride their coattails. And I was entrusted with running their quantitative analytics department. And during my tenure, we went from a $1 billion company to $5 billion. And you learn quite a bit during this period. And after that, I got an MBA and went to another company. And we grew that from 30 million to 627 million, took it IPO, and had three kids in at home and a fourth on the way. And the wife said, "Get to work, come home." And I've been on airplanes my whole life thus far. And she's like, "Hey, come home, and I need a little bit of support at home." So I started BOCG, BOCG, I call it, and
Uh-huh.
my my entire thing was to help entrepreneurs and help them figure out what corporations already know,
Yeah.
get some rigor behind the business and such. And all of a sudden, private equity firms starts coming to me. We have this company that we need to turn around. Can you help? And all of a sudden, all my clients are private equity firms. I had Cerberus, I had Goldman, I had what's it called? Bank of America would come to me. Bain would come to me about stuff, which is a consulting firm. And I realized I'm at the intersection of startups and turnarounds, so distressed assets. And I said, if I could get a fund going, now I can have early mover advantage and place the first bet on all these cool companies I'm working with. And I started doing that. And that's where we find ourselves today. I have a fund on one side and a venture operating advisory company on the other.
I mean that's incredible. So you served what, a year and a half in the Finnish military, got a piece of the nice weather in LA and just never left, huh?
That's right. They said something about becoming an officer and jumping out of planes. And that's when I said, check, please.
That's pretty awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, definitely polar opposites, I'm sure, of the weather in Finland, so definitely makes sense. I'm actually curious. I mean, you mentioned, quantitative statistics when you were bouncing around to these different companies, but I mean, I shouldn't say that because it sounded like you grew them massively to 50 billion. So, like, can you talk a little bit more about like what, you said you learned a lot, but what did you learn? And do you have some experiences you could share from that time?
Yes. I was 22 years old, I think, and I was hanging out with super smart Disney executives. And the chairman and the president of Herbalife at the time were just super smart. And they had made their bones all over the world. And they came into this new company, which Herbalife, when you think of it, it's the first thing that comes to mind is pyramid scheme. And then you think all these crazy people with a big button that says lose weight now, ask me how. So you have these seasoned executives coming from Disney into this crazy environment, and they didn't know how to run it because
Uh-huh.
they didn't have any data. So they said, "Hey, Leon, you seem to be good at numbers. Can you figure out how this business model works?" And back then in 2003 or 4, Excel blew up at 67,000 rows. MS Access blew up at 2 million rows, and I was dealing with like 20 million rows of customer, information. And I had $50 million budget to do things with.
Mhm.
And they would come to me and say, "Can you figure this out? Can you run some numbers?" That was the run some numbers, which to me translated into a all-nighter at least. Run some numbers.
Yeah.
But what happened with that was I became the expert on the business.
Yeah.
So whenever they needed something, they would come to me.
Mhm.
7 o'clock at night, I'm getting ready to go home, have some dinner. I get a phone call. I see the MOJ was the CEO and chairman, and I would see his phone number pull up, and I was like, "Hello?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to Italy tomorrow. I need to understand what I'm meeting with this and this person, and I need to understand what's going on in Italy and Europe and this specific person. And by the way, the airplane leaves at 6 a.m. in the morning. Be on it." So that meant all nighter, pack my bag, and be ready to give him all the insights I had on that country, on that person. And this happened all the time for 10 years. That's what I was doing.
Wow.
And then when you have the numbers and you complain about something, for instance, I used to complain about our events. We
Uh-huh.
spent about, call it $100 million a year on events. And I was complaining, "Why are we spending so much? Why are we spending so much?" So they put me in charge of it. So now I learned that if you don't want the job, don't complain. But it's in my nature to figure stuff out. So I was in strategic planning. Then I had quantitative analytics. Before that, I had promotions and analytics. And I was in new country openings as well. And then I was in sales planning. And I was the person that they would send to talk to their distributors about how to improve their business. So I was kind of a problem solver. So to answer your question after a long-winded answer, the one thing that I learned was to be curious. And when you're curious, be ready to roll up your sleeves and do the work. Don't just complain. If you complain, come with a solution. And that's what the Disney guys taught me early on. Don't give me complaints. If you're going to complain, what's the solution?
Yeah. No, I mean that's really important, I think, for us to hear, and especially for our younger audience. When you're at that age, you hear all the time, especially in investment banking in New York, right? It's you're just grinding it out all the time, and you don't leave till 3, 4 in the morning, and they get in around 9. It's not too early, but it's a grind, man. But it sounds like you embraced it, and you genuinely were interested and curious about it, which I think also helps, right? When you're and just good at it.
Yeah. Became good at it. But you're
Right.
right, Alex. I had bought a $57,000 Corvette. That's really the motivation. I made $50,000 a year, and
Hmm.
I had purchased a $57,000 Corvette. So somewhere in there, the math doesn't really
It's a
pencil.
very LA thing to do.
I grew up on cars. I love cars.
Yeah.
I've spent my whole life loving cars,
What year?
but it was a 2005 at the
Uh-huh.
time. So it was the newest model. It was
Got
this
it.
color,
Yeah.
right? And I loved it, but I couldn't pay for it.
Hmm.
So the motivation was get myself a car that I wanted and then get promoted.
I
So
love
there
it.
was it was burn all the boats type of thing. Uh, Drive this car that I can't afford and then figure out how to pay for it. So I was in the office every day at 6 a.m. in the morning. I always came in a suit and tie. My boss would always say, "Why do you have a suit and tie on?" I said, "Because I'm dressing for the job I want, not the job I have." And then I kept doing that. And I'd leave at 11 o'clock at night. I'd go to the gym in between and I'd repeat it because it was a necessity to make those car payments and the rent and all the other stuff as opposed to a nice to have.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, you got to commend that. So, I mean, definitely some serious kudos for me for your work ethic. I mean, I could definitely relate just putting my, nose to the grindstone and just never stopping. I mean, that's just how I always kind of been. I even train for bodybuilding competitions now, and it's like you're constantly moving. People are like, how do you wake up at 4:30, go to the gym and then go to work and then come home and then you're doing these podcasts and it's like, well, I don't really know anything else. Like this is,
Exactly.
what else am I gonna do? Sit on the couch? Like, I'm building something here.
That's right.
Awesome, man. Well, so I kind of want to get into, you mentioned you typically come in what you're doing now with two critical stages, right? It's early stage companies or like distressed businesses. So, I mean, what are some common operational breakdowns that you see repeatedly across both, or are there differences? I mean,
Yeah, a fantastic question, actually. I was talking to somebody about it today, and I compare it to early stage childbirth. They come out, they have the glint in their eye, but they don't know anything. And then you have the emergency room patient that you're trying to figure out how to keep them alive, right? And then give them a perfect life for the remainder of their life. So both sides is about solving for the future. In early stage companies, the idea person or the founder generally thinks that if they just get capital, they'll win. But they omit the fact that they actually need to roll up their sleeves. They need to have a plan. They need to be on time, on spec, on budget with everything they do, right? Not really in their mindset because very few are serial entrepreneurs. Now, on the opposite end, you get seasoned executives that uh, are struggling heavily, right? They are in double digit decline mode and they have normally a private equity or a VC or just a board just beating them up every quarter. And they know they need a strategic plan, an operational plan, a financial plan. They just don't know how to get there. So they're kind of similar, even though they're in different life cycles. And most of the time, all you need is just to light a little spark that says, this is what we're going to do. Stop competing over who has the best idea. Just figure out one idea and execute flawlessly.
mm. So kind of honing in their focus, if you will.
Yes, 100%.
So, and how much time does it take you to figure this out? I'm sure it varies on a case by case basis, right? But I mean, it can't be that simple, or is it? Since you've been doing it so long.
It's not simple, but it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
So, to me, our normal process, we have what we call a venture operating model, which is a 4-month process to do most of the things that we want to do.
Hmm.
And it involves about 3 weeks of really just digging in and learning what's going on today, then getting the management team or the founders together in a room for about 4 or 5 days and figuring out what the North Star is. And when I say North Star is, what does success look like 5 years from now, right? If everything's humming, what is that? So we start out with that visioning. Then the next part of the VOM process is development. It's a 3-month, very rigorous private equity type of diligence work where we look at the macro factors in your industry and globally. Then we come up with a operational, financial, strategic roadmap, and we put a valuation around your company. And this is where that's where the shoveling really happens. This is intensive work, and it's where you learn and where you also learn that your first intuition of what to do may not be the right one because it's fact based. So, Alex, to answer your question, I've been doing this for 20 something years. It doesn't get easier, but I kind of know, have the framework to get it done.
Right.
And then the last part of it is execution, which is really, it could be anywhere from 4 months to 3 years, right? Now,
Yeah.
whether they want me to help them with that or not, that's a different conversation. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Yeah. No, I mean, really, I mean, interesting. So, I mean, so you mentioned you have to help them hone in on the focus, right? But do you see it being more of a people or personnel issue mostly? Is it their systems, their inability to execute? Maybe they just can't, they don't have the right visibility in their business. I mean, what do you see mostly?
Fantastic question. And it's changed.
Yeah.
So as a young pup, it was black and white. I look at the numbers, and the numbers tell me that this is black and this is white, right? And you don't know much better, so you just rely blindly on numbers. And then you get older and you realize everything is gray. And I'd say 10 years ago, it was systems. They had the people, they may not have had the systems. They had to put in a new ERP system. They needed business intelligence. They needed forecasting, whatever. Nowadays, I think it's a people challenge. It's we have all the data at our fingertips with AI today. And what used to take 3 weeks to figure out, today you can do in 30 seconds. You know, I kept talking about 67,000 rows and all the coolness I did in 2004. Today, that is what a 10-year-old knows how to do. So, it really is people. What I see now is ego.
Uh,
People sit in an office, and let's say there's five of us, we all have a C in front of our titles, and we're trying to figure out how to win while the other person is losing. And as a team, let's say you're a ship, a battleship and a battle group, and you're out there on the ocean, and you have one ship trying to pull away from the rest of the group, all of a sudden that becomes a problem. So what I see today in $500 million upwards type of companies that we go into, it's literally they have the wrong people, not just based on skill set, but because alignment. They don't agree on what success looks like, and then they fight each other over it.
Interesting. That's fascinating, and it makes a lot of sense, right? If one head is running one direction and one's going another, and they're not always in the same room together, that trickles down throughout the organization, right?
That's right.
And it takes someone like you to find that essentially.
Right. And the funny thing is, when you go in and you talk to people, and I like to listen a lot more nowadays. I used to be talking all the time. Now I listen most of the time. And I go in and I talk to the coordinator, and I say, "What's going on? If you were the boss today, what would you do?"
Yeah.
And generally, what they say, "We need a strategy." Now, then I go to the CEO and I say, "Hey, CEO, what is your strategy?" And she or he will say, "Oh, we're doing this, and here's our 3 month plan, and here's our 6 month plan, and here's how we do this, and then we're going to do IPO, da 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 da." And then you realize that the youngest or the lowest person on the totem pole has no idea, and the CEO thinks that everybody knows. So it's a communication challenge, it's an alignment challenge, and then it becomes a morale challenge. Because especially if your company is going down in revenue, that means probably the bonuses are not happening.
Mhm.
It probably means that you don't pay a increase in salaries every year, right? So you don't get your normal 2.5% bump that you're betting on. You don't get your bonus to pay off your Christmas gifts expenses that normally comes in March. And then it becomes this slippery slope where people don't believe anymore. And that's when it becomes really difficult to
Yeah.
turn around the company, because smart people will find other jobs.
Right.
It's what you're left with are the ones that are demoralized and maybe B plus players as opposed to the A plus players.
Right. Not exactly who you want, you know, try, trying to, uh, have a nice trajectory with your company. Yeah, got it. Interesting. That's very interesting. I mean, you mentioned AI. Um, it's affecting every industry, right? How are you seeing AI affect the private equity scene? Are you seeing companies strategically using this yet? If so, are they doing it well? I mean, I know a lot of companies are trying, and some are trying to not. um, I'm just curious your take.
AI to me is especially, it's an amazing tool.
Yeah.
It's an amazing tool. It creates effectivity like never before. Think when the websites came out and the internet came out, we were all excited and whatever. This is it's a multiple of 100,
Mhm.
right? You can become a coder like that. You can do research like that. And the private equity firms are really using it to speed up their processes. On the flip side, if I stop hiring early, first straight out of college type of kids that have that spark, that want to learn and all of that stuff, that's who AI today is replacing. So if I get rid of you mentioned the investment banker analyst that's sitting there at Goldman between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. in the morning, 26 hours. That's what I used to do, right? So if you take that person, this process is designed to teach that person how to evaluate, how to do work, how to function under pressure, all these things. What AI now is doing all that work, delivering it better than the analyst, so that the senior management go, hey, I need to hit my earnings per share this quarter. I have all these analysts that I normally spend money on. I can use AI for it. Let's get rid of them. The challenge there is succession. 10 years from now, where are the smart middle managers that now can turn into senior and executive managers in these types of places? So again, after a long-winded response, Alex, we're losing critical thinking, and that's criminal
Yeah.
because universities don't teach critical thinking anymore as well as they used to.
Yeah.
And the last, stand was generally taken by corporations that said, "Hey, we need you to think through problems." And if that's disappearing, what are we doing with the next generation of workers? Or do we need them? Elon seems to think we don't.
Yeah. No, I mean, you raise a good point. You can basically type in anything you want and get an answer spit out. Now, if that answer is correct right now, I'm not sure. I'm convinced it's 100% correct. But you made a great point about succession and who are going to be the next next senior leadership if there if there are no employees, right? Um, you made a very good point there, and I think that's important when you're talking about uh, anyone that is afraid of AI taking their jobs. I think it's going to be very effective in helping you do your job. And yeah, maybe some companies will get more efficient and cut some slack, but ultimately, I think you just need to adopt it and be the best you can with it.
I use the word tool,
Yeah.
and I say that all the time. I have one client right now that I'm working with. She is a doctor of education or psychology, and
Mm.
she knows psychology really well. And she has come up with this really interesting way to help family offices, high net worth individuals to plan their succession. And she came to me and she says, "I want to use AI to do this." And I said, "Well, then why do they need you? If AI can do it, can it do it as well as you can?" And she says, "No, because every project is different." I said, "Okay, so how about we use AI to automate your workflow that you would normally do to gather the data. And then once you have the data in front of you, we make sure that you or someone similar to you can go and provide that human interaction. Because again, she's a psychologist, right? Uh, People go to psychologists because they want that human interaction and the advice and to walk through the process. They're not necessarily interested in the answer. It's the journey that they're walking through. So I use that use case a little bit as a, if you use AI as a tool to do your job better, and now you're creating efficiency rather than automating yourself out of a job.
Well said, man. I really appreciate your time here. I'd like to ask one question, which is if you had a magic wand today and you could fix one thing, what do you think you would do?
I would figure out how to get people off their screens and going into or starting spending time with their fellow humans again. I go through airports and all I see is this. I get in an
Yes,
elevator, all I see is this. And we're missing what makes humans human really different than everyone else. We are herd people and we're better together than individually. And again, this is a tool. If we could just put it down a little bit and spend time with each other, I think we'll be much better off in the long run.
I love that. Every time I'm commuting on the subway, everyone's looking down, even when they're walking on the sidewalk, walking down the steps, and like just like using the peripherals to guide them through the sidewalk. I'm like, guys, I think the phone can wait until you at least cross the street, right? I mean,
Right.
thanks so
And learn,
much. What's that?
and you might meet somebody new that could be interesting, right? To have a conversation with. The stuff that's on here is going to be here forever. So
Exactly. I walked down the street the other day. I gave someone a smile just because, and I got a smile back. You know how rare that is now? It doesn't really happen very often because everyone's just
I
looking
know.
down. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Where can our listeners find you and your company?
I'm on LinkedIn and my website is bocginc.com, BOCGEINC.com. And if you get tired at night and you can't sleep, you go read one of my articles that I normally put on Medium or LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll put those below the video here and enjoy the rest of the day in beautiful California.
Thank you, Alex. Go
Thanks.
next.